What is the worst NSFW thing you did? Story 1. I got busy with a coworker in the men's employee bathroom, and later in the manager's office while we were still working a closing shift. In a grocery store. I was the closing manager, and there were only 2 other employees in the store, so not much risk for getting caught. The coworker was and still is my husband, and I miss doing dumb things at work with him. We still work together, but no opportunities for those kinds of shenanigans anymore. Story 2. I had an unfortunate miscommunication getting busy once. We had a conversation about how I found facials degrading and wouldn't want to do that to someone. Another about how I find a woman's eyes and smile the most attractive part of them. A bit later we were doing a doggy style and she offers to turn over saying, "You want to finish on my face, don't you?" I empathetically declare, "No!" And she looked so very hurt, like I'd just taken her self-esteem and stomped on it. Immediately I realized something had gone wrong, so I asked her to repeat herself. Turns out she said, "You want to look at my face, don't you?" We cleared things up and had a laugh about it later, but in that moment I had clearly caused some emotional pain and I felt terrible. God, that is an unfortunate miscommunication. I can't imagine the kind of things that run through your head in that moment. Good thing they cleared that one up. Story 3. Not me, but one of my friends in high school stuck his Johnson in a dead raccoon. My dog had just killed it and kind of gnawed its head off, so there was a hole, and I joked that I'd give my buddy all the money in my wallet if he stuck himself in there. But before I could say, JK, he dropped his shorts and hopped on. I don't think he actually stuck it inside, I think he just touched it on top. But still, my other buddy and I just kind of stood there in shock as I opened my wallet and gave the guy $4. Story 4. I knocked a coworker out by accident. Long ago, Home Depot clone type store. Stood on a U-shaped lumber frame that wrapped around a pallet end cap. Just as she was reaching down for it, it flipped up, hit her in the forehead, and KO'd her. I had to carry her through a busy Saturday store to the front office. Thankfully, she came to before I died of stress. My husband used to work at Home Depot. First, he accidentally stabbed himself in the arm with a pair of scissors. Then he was run over by a forklift his manager was driving. Good times with workers' comp. I worked in administration at a hospital, and within the first month, I put my foot through a grate and needed crutches. The next year, I hurt my rotator cuff trying not to fall downstairs. A few months later, I fell over outside dodging a bee, and the year after, I melted the plastic pad under my chair with a heater. I was the OHS rep, and the fire warden. Fun times. Story 5. I was getting busy with an ex in the back of my truck outside a park one night. We were found by the police, handcuffed, put in the back of the patrol car, and eventually released. I've never been more afraid, or ashamed. Story 6. I work in a medical office. We were on the ground floor and the building bordered up to a forested area. It was after hours and I was taking out some boxes to the recycling area. I had propped the door open, and while coming back for a second load, I saw a garter snake at the doorway entrance. It saw me and booked it inside the office, right into the waiting room, and up onto the couch, disappearing into the cushions. It was just me there at the time, but the waiting room was shared with a psychiatric office. I could only imagine the trauma of a snake coming out of the couch the next day to an unsuspecting patient. Luckily, it came out after about 10 minutes or so, and I was able to get it out of the office before leaving that night. Story 7. I shit myself on the practice green before a round of golf. Trusted a fart, and diarrhea just poured down my leg and into my shoes. I tucked a towel into my belt behind me to cover the stain on my pants, and drove home with my own filth. I moved my tee time to that evening, and only managed to play 9, but shot 1 over par, which was nice. There was also some splatter on the practice green when I got back a couple hours later. Story 8. When I was a camp counselor abroad for a summer, a bunch of us took our day off to get drunk at a hotel. We were sleeping like 6 to a room, and when everyone was, I hope, passed out, the arts and craft girls snuck in and we hooked up. There was a dude passed out next to me in bed, and lots of others in the room. Funny thing is, I told him the next day, and he didn't even mind. In fact, he high-fived me. Story 9. Accidentally skinny dipped on the 4th of July. Dropped my swim trunks to my knees when trying to do the dirty with my GF in the water. Predictably, they fell off during the act, and I couldn't find them as they'd sunk. This was also at her parents' lake house, near their dock, which they and their friends were hanging out on. I was naked in the water for probably 20 or 30-ish minutes before my friend was able to sneak me a new pair of trunks by stuffing them in their own. Absolute G. While I was waiting there, I had to act normal to the people around us, but also kept my distance. It was such a freaking stressful situation. I was super worried people would ask me why I changed my swimsuit, but somehow nobody noticed. Not the same, but similarly, I went to a water park when I was 15 or 16, and there was a rapids pool where the water is just moving really fast in a big ring. I was diving and having fun when one of the jets pushed the water around and took me off my feet. I went under and basically did a bunch of backwards rolls, but the water jets managed to swish off my trunks during that. So when I come up, I'm waist deep in water, but otherwise totally naked, and my shorts are swimming off without me, and I'm scrambling after them. I did manage to get them back on, but for a short period of time, I was water streaking around a public swimming area. Yeah, that would have been stressful. And as far as the shorts that he changed, I'm sure at least a few people noticed and put two and two together, but they just didn't say anything. Story 10. At my university, I discovered that our nursing school didn't have any classes on Fridays, and in one of the science buildings, we had a basement level that was fully dedicated to the nursing school and was completely empty on that day. Let's just say you could be as loud as you wanted, and nobody would have noticed. Story 11. Slept with a coworker all over the restaurant we worked at. We had a favorite booth though, but she ended up hitting her head on the dangling light there. We went back after not working for a few months, and the light was still out. We're still together 12 years later. Story 12. I once broke a bottle of some random highly volatile halogenated organic compound on the floor. It immediately made my lungs and eyes start to burn. The whole lab had to be evacuated and they sent a team back in later with full-face respirators to clean it up. Not the NSFW I was expecting, but probably the most NSFW on this list. Story 13. I took a dump in a guy's front yard on the side of his house when we first started dating. It was around midnight, all the gas stations were closed, and I had to poo and was really embarrassed to do it in his bathroom when I got there. His dog started barking at the side window and woke everyone up. I didn't get caught, but the next day his roommate walked inside saying very loudly, "I swear to God, there's a human shit in the yard." I almost died. And yes, I married that man and told him there was indeed a human shit in the yard, and that it was mine. He laughed. I love that the alternative toward pooping in the privacy of his bathroom was risking getting caught pooping in the grass instead. Top notch. Story 14. Had a 2 guys, 1 girl situation. He was a buddy of mine, and I didn't know the girl. He just texted me one night at 11 p.m. while I'm killing zombies in some game with a, "You down for a double team?" I text back, "Okay," and 10 minutes later he pulls up. We go to a crappy ground floor apartment and walk in. She's watching Gold Rush on a TV, covered in a Snuggie. He sits down beside her, and I sit on the chair. Suddenly, he's getting handsy down south, and off we go. Her 3-year-old son woke up halfway through. The whole thing was pretty weird. Buddy constantly tried to slip in the back door, and she kept slapping him away. At one point, we were both in the V at the same time. Kinda weird. After, we got dressed and left. Don't think we all said more than 10 words combined that night. Haven't really talked to him much since then. Overall, it was just kinda awkward and weird. I felt a bit used, I guess. I wouldn't do it again. Story 15. In our 10-story dorm, we discovered that our dorm elevator would stop with no alarm if you pulled apart the inside doors, and would stay that way if you jammed in a shoe. At night in the winter when nobody was using them, we'd stop one of the elevators between the top floor and the roof deck. There were 2 elevators and not too much traffic at night, so we thought we could steal a few minutes. Had it stopped for 15 to 20 minutes of a very hot and steamy time when we heard voices. Someone said, "I think it's here. I think I can see it. There's a light. Let me see if I can pry open the doors." The girl and I went into an instant, very quiet panic, grabbed our clothes, hit the button for the ground floor, and wondered what we would say to the guy on the 10th floor when the door suddenly opened and we stepped out. That blessed elevator went right past 10. We heard the guy say, "It's moving," and straight down to 1. We got out in the lobby and someone said, "Oh, the elevator's working again?" We said, "Oh, it must be. Was it not before?" And quickly left for a walk. Turns out, for some reason, the other elevator wasn't running, so everyone was waiting for us. Maybe the other elevator was also in use. Now we hop into the rapid fire segment of the video for stories too short to make a full entry out of, but too good to be left out. Let's jump right in. Smashing in the photography black room when I was in high school. Slept with a coworker many years ago while in her office and working on inventory. In the Navy, a girl I was close with had watch duty from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. We screwed multiple times during her shifts. No regrets. Stood on a swivel chair to change a light bulb. Very unsafe. OSHA would not approve. I once got busy in a Burger King bathroom. In the core, 1,200 guys, 400 girls, no sex allowed. We had 4 free condom dispensers that we had to refill daily, 200 condoms a day, and we still averaged 1 pregnancy a week. Crawling out of a cervix. I was still a minor. It really messed me up. Worked for a pet company. Had 2 associates do it in the sick room where all the URI and ringworm animals were kept. Ugh. Screwed a girl in a psych ward and then got kicked out of the co-ed section to the all-guys section. Got busy with a co-worker on the pool table at work after closing. There is a permanent stain on the felt, but thankfully nobody figured it out. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave your story in the comments below, if you're willing, as I like to do viewer story videos as well. I'm ReddList. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.
Boy, that was just the beginning.